What you say? So there's no black and white when it comes to sexual orientation from a scientific perspective. So we are here with my newfound acquaintance and soon to be a lifelong friend, I can already tell, Mr. Forrest Valkai. And I brought him in with this discussion because I thought it was really important for us to have a scientific perspective on some of the assumptions made about the LGBTQ community, because me as a Christian, we have all kinds of belief systems around whether or not being gay or queer or transgender or transsexual, scientifically just unnatural, not what you're supposed to do. Even from a scientific standpoint, it's wrong. So I thought, why don't we just bring a scientist who knows what he's doing, who studies this for a living, and let's see if we can have a conversation and shed a little bit more light on some of the assumptions around this from a scientific standpoint. So Mr. Forrest, it is a pleasure to have you here, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Super excited.
It's incredibly awkward getting talked about. I'm just standing here.
It's wonderful. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what got you into the whole scientific field and the study of how humans do what humans do.
So the short way to describe myself, I just say I'm a biologist. That's the easiest way to explain. But really, I study evolutionary biology and bioanthropology. So I study evolution and human evolution and what makes humans humans and all that fun stuff. It's just, I'm super excited about life, man. It's just a weird, crazy thing that, as far as we know, only happens on this planet. And the best part about it is that when you really look at what life is, when you really study how it works, you see that it's really no different than anything else, anywhere else in the universe. It's just right here on this one planet. It's the same things that are just wiggling, and it's amazing and it's beautiful.
I love that, because you sound like you know what you're talking about, and you have as much passion about it as I have about the things that I'm passionate about. So here is also why I love you, is because as a person who holds to his Pentecostal Christian background, you are not an atheist. You are an anti-theist, which is absolutely phenomenal to me on multiple levels. Explain to me what it is that you've noticed with religious belief systems across cultures and how that's had more of a detrimental effect on how people can live their lives today.
Gosh, that's a big question. So just to clarify, if I can break down those words for you, when you say atheist, I would use that term as an identifier, but it often it stirs up a lot of confusion, because people will assume that by atheist I mean I know for sure there is no God. And of course I don't know that. That's the difference between Gnosticism and agnosticism. So you would say I'm an agnostic atheist in that I don't think there's a God. I don't have any proof for that, but it's whatever. And then you put an anti-theist there, is just to say that I'm also against the idea. Not only do I not think that there is a God, I don't want there to be, and I wouldn't be a fan if there was. So that's the big thing, is that if you could prove to me for sure that this God existed, I'm not a fan. I will be the first to admit it, but I'm still not going to be into it, And the reason why, this gets to the heart of your question, I just wanted to break that down a little bit, because it stirs up a lot of confusion.
I love it.
To get to the heart of your question, the reason why I feel that way is because this is something that, it has been a corrosive agent to society and to the human mind for a very long time. It's intrinsically ingrained in culture, and that can be a wonderful, beautiful thing, but it's also something that needs to be challenged and called into question. As I think Douglas Adams says, this is the one thing that we're not allowed to question. Why not? Because you're not. And when you have something with like these magical claims that are so tied into a person's identity and so tied into their cultural background, it seriously limits the amount of conversations that you're able to have. If I were to sit here across the table from you and tell you that I strongly believe that Bill Gates wrote to me and told me that he'd pay me $1 billion in Bitcoin if only I were to say some words in German over my Fruity Pebbles, you'd say that I was a lunatic. It didn't matter, and you'd ask for so much proof and evidence. But if I say, well, the creator of the universe told me that if I say some Latin words over this cracker and this wine, that'll turn it into the body and blood of Christ, and they'll give me an eternity in heaven, well, I'm just Catholic now, that's fine.
Wow.
These are equally, you should ask questions about both of these claims,
That's delicious. I'm for
this whole thing, it just, and if I were to draw the comparison to a Catholic person, they'd probably call me, crazy and say that I'm, comparing apples and oranges. We're talking about magical claims here. We're talking about whether or not the laws of the universe apply in every situation or just most of them. And if we can't have the same conversation all the time about what's real and what's not, then we can't have any conversation ever.
That's a key word that you're mentioning, because that's the intention of this conversation too, is conversations.
Yes.
We're not having conversations, really important conversations about belief systems and about why we believe what we believe, and being able to back up these claims, being able to defend our stand with it without being offensive, without being touchy about it,
Absolutely.
And there'll be no healing without these conversations.
You're right, and something you touched on there is important, being able to have conversations and ask questions. We should be able to question absolutely everything. And the key here is, questioning doesn't necessarily mean rejecting. It doesn't mean we throw out everything.
And it doesn't mean that we're going to agree.
Exactly.
We after the conversing has happened, we probably still will hold to our
belief. Will. We should. There are certain things that I don't want everybody to be homogenous on. We should have disagreements on things. That's how progress works. But if we can't even have a conversation about it without somebody getting their feelings hurt and without it being something that's viscerally and deeply offensive to them, we're not going to progress, especially when we're talking about something like either magical claims or the consequences of magical claims.